In the dead of night, a chilling wind rustles through the silent town. The moon hangs high above the sleepy hamlet, casting an eerie glow on the deserted streets. All is seemingly calm, all is seemingly normal. Yet beneath this tranquil facade, an unsettling encounter is set to unfold. Our protagonist, a weary night shift worker, trudges home after a long shift. He's a familiar figure in the town, known for his solitary nocturnal walks. Tonight, however, his route home is far from ordinary. As he turns the corner, a sudden rustling sound punctures the silence. A shadow lurks in the darkness, a figure barely discernible against the blackened landscape. The wind howls, the trees shiver, and our protagonist halts. His heart pounds in his chest as he squints into the darkness, trying to make sense of the shapeless form. The figure remains still, its presence an enigma. In the moonlight, a faceless figure, shrouded in darkness, stood motionless. The image of the faceless figure haunted every waking moment. Our protagonist, trapped in the clutches of a relentless fear, could feel the icy tendrils of paranoia creeping into their once peaceful existence. Every corner of their home, once a sanctuary, was now a potential hiding place for the faceless figure. The first signs of the haunting were subtle. Little things out of place, objects moved when no one was around. A book that was left on the table would appear on the shelf. A cup that was in the sink would be found in the cupboard. It was as if the house had taken on a life of its own, its walls pulsating with an eerie energy that the protagonist couldn't shake off. Then came the noises, the soft whispers in the dead of night, the creaking of floorboards when the house should have been silent. It was as if the very air was thick with whispers, each one a chilling reminder of the faceless figure. The protagonist would often wake up in the middle of the night, their heart pounding, certain that they had heard a voice. But when they would strain their ears to listen, all they would hear was the deafening silence of the night. The unexplained events were perhaps the most terrifying. Doors would open and close on their own, lights would flicker without reason, and there were times when the protagonist could swear they felt a cold touch on their skin, even when they were alone. It was as if an invisible presence was weaving a web of fear around them, tightening its grip with each passing day. The protagonist's life had turned into a nightmare, their home a haunted house. Fear had become their constant companion, a chilling reminder of the faceless figure's presence. They were trapped in a waking nightmare, their every moment consumed by the terror of the unknown. Each night, the whispering wind seemed to be carrying a message, a warning that the haunting was just beginning, that the worst was yet to come. A forgotten tale, a dark secret, clawed its way from the town's past. It was a story that had been buried deep within the annals of the town's history, a chilling legend of a faceless entity that once haunted the quiet streets, an entity that was said to be as old as the town itself. The protagonist, drawn into the eerie charm of the tale, began to delve deeper. The local library, a vault of forgotten lore, became their sanctuary. Dusty books and faded newspapers yielded fragments of the chilling legend. Whispers of a faceless phantom haunting the town, causing an inexplicable fear among the townsfolk. The accounts varied, but the terror was constant, a thread that wove itself through every retelling. As the protagonists delved deeper, they found a chilling pattern. The entity seemed to appear every few generations, its presence always heralded by a series of inexplicable events. Odd happenings that couldn't be explained by logic or reason, things that made the skin crawl and the mind reel. This was no mere legend, our protagonist began to realize. The unease that had been gnawing at them started to take form. This was a cycle, a pattern, a recurring nightmare that the town seemed doomed to relive. And the worst part, the cycle was due to repeat itself. The protagonist's research turned into an obsession. They scoured every source, every scrap of information, hoping to find something that could break the cycle. But instead, they found themselves drawn deeper into the mystery. The faceless entity, once a distant tale, was becoming a terrifying reality. The chill of the story seeped into their bones. The fear of the townsfolk became their own. A heavy realization dawned upon them. The faceless figure wasn't a mere figment of imagination. It was real, and it had returned. The town was on the brink of another haunting, and our protagonist was in the eye of the storm. Suddenly, The faceless figure wasn't just a distant shadow anymore. A cold shiver ran down the protagonist's spine as the entity was now a tangible presence. It was an indescribable terror, a pallor of dread that hung heavily in the air. The faceless figure, once an elusive spectre, was now a horrifying reality standing at the threshold of the protagonist's home. The protagonist, paralyzed by fear, could only watch as the entity floated closer, its form a ripple in the otherwise still air. It was as though the very atmosphere was bending to its will, its presence so overwhelming that the air turned dense, the silence deafening. The faceless figure seemed to consume the very light around it, casting an eerie darkness that threatened to swallow everything. Even without eyes, the protagonist could feel its gaze, a penetrating stare that seemed to see right through them. It was a cold, unfeeling scrutiny that sent waves of terror washing over them. The protagonist's heart pounded in their chest like a war drum, echoing their fear in a rhythm that seemed deafeningly loud in the oppressive silence. In the presence of the faceless figure, the protagonist felt a helplessness they had never known. It was as if they were a mere puppet, stripped of their will, their fear the entity's marionette strings. The figure's lack of a face, its featureless visage, only amplified the feeling of dread. Then the entity spoke. Its voice was a hollow echo, a chilling whisper that seemed to resonate from within the protagonist's own mind. "The reckoning has come," it said. The words hung heavily in the air, a foreboding message that sent a fresh wave of terror coursing through the protagonist. The faceless figure left a chilling message: the reckoning has come. As the entity's words echoed in the protagonist's mind, they were left in a state of petrified anticipation, dreading the horrors that the faceless figure's ominous warning promised. The town woke up to a morning like no other. As the sun rose, it revealed a world that was eerily unfamiliar. The once bustling and lively town now lay in a silence that was deafening. The chirping of the birds, the playful barks of the dogs, the hum of the town's life, all were conspicuously absent. A ghostly calm had descended, and it was as if life itself had paused momentarily, holding its breath in anticipation. Pets had mysteriously disappeared overnight, leaving behind empty kennels and desolate backyards. The echoes of their absence reverberated through the quiet streets, adding to the growing sense of unease. The town's power had gone out too, plunging the buildings into an unnatural darkness that not even the morning light could penetrate. A chill hung in the air, an icy cold that seeped into your bones and made you shudder despite the rising sun. It was a chill that bore an uncanny resemblance to the cold touch of the faceless entity that had haunted our protagonist's dreams. It was as if the entity had reached out from the realm of nightmares and had its icy fingers wrapped around the heart of the town. Our protagonist stood in the midst of it all, his heart pounding as he took in the surreal sight. The gravity of the situation was not lost on him. He realized that the town was not just up against some inexplicable oddities. It was in the grip of something far more sinister, something that was beyond comprehension. His mind raced back to the faceless entity, to the chilling whispers and the dark secret that had been unearthed. He knew then that this was not just about him anymore. It was about the town, about its people, about their survival. As the morning wore on, the sense of dread grew stronger. The air was heavy with it, weighed down by the fear of the unknown. And amidst it all, one thing was clear. Something was coming, something terrifying. The reckoning was upon them. As night fell, the town held its breath. The once vibrant streets now echoed with an eerie silence, the very air thick with anticipation. The protagonist, our beacon of hope, steeled themselves for the looming confrontation, their resolve a stark contrast to the fear that gripped the town. The whispers of the wind seemed to carry tales of dread, every rustle of leaves a reminder of the faceless entity that lurked in the shadows. The town, usually a symphony of life, was now a theatre of suspense, the stage set for a chilling climax. As the protagonist stood in the face of impending doom, the only sound that filled the air was the relentless ticking of the clock, counting down to the witching hour. The atmosphere was electric with tension, every tick a heartbeat, every tock a gasp of fear. And then, just as the clock struck midnight, there was a knock on the door.